Welcome to the Arts Lunch at United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities. I'm Jennifer Oz Freeman. I'm the Associate Professor and Program Director of Theology and the Arts at United. I'm very excited to have Sam Robertson with us today. He's a local artist in the Twin Cities and a University of Minnesota alum and the illustrator of the King James Version of the Old Testament, among other things. So welcome, Sam. Thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Cool. Thank you, Jennifer, for asking me to come by to talk today. I prepared a little bit, and then I'll open it up to questions and answers after a little bit. So just jump in. Yeah, I'm super grateful and excited for the opportunity. I'd like to talk a little bit about my experience illustrating the Old Testament, the reasons for doing it in the first place, some challenges I ran into along the way. Then I'll run through a slideshow that sort of demonstrates the change in painting style over the 7 years it took to do this. Then I'll give you a chance to pick from a few other slideshows I prepared to see how I handled certain recurring themes. Then I'd love to open it up to a conversation and hear what's on your mind and answer some questions. But before I get too far, here's the book itself, just so you can see. It's 520 pages, 257 illustrations. I made this red velvet, the tea light candles.
Candles. I was like, oh.
But this is my copy for meeting up and stuff. So that's okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the book. And yeah, it's got a little bookmark ribbon, gold foil, frontispiece, and a cover I drew up. And yeah, 8 years of mostly unpaid work, filling up all the cracks in my life while I was also working and starting a family. I was gonna pass it around, but you guys are all in the but you guys are welcome to look at it. So okay, I'll put on a slideshow so you can see some. These are just kind of random selections from the book itself. Wait, I gotta share the screen. Zoom, share screen, share. Okay, everyone can see that. So this will just kind of, wait, not this one, sorry. Okay, so these are just some selections out of the 257 illustrations. So why did I do this in the first place? It's not a simple answer because the reasons are still very mysterious to me. I went to Catholic school up to 6th grade and got confirmed around 16 because it was expected of me, but I'm not religious and I wasn't back then either, but I've always been open to religion. I think I believe in some sort of higher power, but it's not the type that's I found in the Old Testament. I barely thought about the Old Testament ever for my whole life until it dawned on me that I should illustrate. And at any point, if something's not working, just let me know. If you guys can't hear me or something, but I'm aware that this book I made is just one in a much larger tradition of illustrated Bibles, but I also knew almost nothing about that tradition going into it. I'd seen an exhibit of the St. John's Illuminated Bible and enjoyed it maybe 6 years earlier, and I loved the images I'd seen of Gustave Doré's engravings he did for the Bible. I heard about R. Crumb's illustrated book of Genesis, but other than that, I didn't know any other examples of people that tried to illustrate the Bible. I knew of a couple other guys, a couple of examples of people who illustrated existing books, though. I thought it was cool that this person named Matt Kish just started to illustrate Moby Dick one day, an illustration each day, and it picked up a ton of steam online, and in-house books found it and asked them if they could publish it. And something similar happened with Zach Smith, who illustrated Gravity's Rainbow. So I thought maybe I could do the same thing. And when I thought of my favorite books, none of them seemed to be a good fit. But then I just thought, the Old Testament. I sensed that it could be that book for me. So I bought a copy of the King James Bible and started figuring out what I potentially want to illustrate. I thought maybe once my project picked up steam, it could become a book somehow, and that it would fit somewhere eventually and resonate with people and become bigger than just a series of paintings. but I intentionally came at the project from a place of ignorance. I thought that researching the history of the Bible or other people's illustration efforts beforehand would confuse me or take away my motivation or dilute the final product or something. But I thought it would make for an interesting reflection on America. The project was and is sort of, it's part of a reflection on the American dream, being not really bought into anymore by more and more people. There's something energizing in that realm to me, where the Bible meets the remaining fumes of the American dream. It seems like the Bible and the American dream are intertwined in some way I can't fully understand, but I'm guessing the connection is rooted all the way back to how the U.S. was colonized mostly by people who worship the Bible. They had these dreams for what this land could become once they got rid of everyone else, defending their violence with the Bible. But I mistakenly thought that this was going to be an easy book. It'd be easy to get this book into the world and to illustrate it. That it would kind of advertise itself, make its way into the public eye, like what happened to that guy who illustrated one day. I imagine that it would really strike a chord with the world, that people would be on the edge of their seats on the internet and everywhere to see what the next painting would be, but that never quite happened that way. So, but I had the support of friends and family along the way, which was invaluable. And I couldn't have made this book without their encouragement, but I would usually not even get 20 likes on social media for these paintings that I thought were crazy, even towards the end when I was making my favorite ones during the whole project. And I had to constantly do so much outreach and self-promotion, which I can't stand doing. And it seemed to land somewhere that's too religious for the modern secular art world, but too controversial or irreverent or phony or something for devout religious people. And it's expensive. It seems too lowbrow to pique the interest of any esteemed art galleries or museums. But I also don't have the credentials of an outsider artist because I study at the University of Minnesota. I study art. Someone at one of my exhibitions for the Old Testament came because he saw one of my flyers from the event in the world and was super disappointed to find out that I was not an outsider artist. I know he's not the only one, but it's actually fitting into some unpredictable places. We're getting close to selling out of the 300 copies we printed, and it's sometimes been surprising who it resonates with. I went on a short 7-stop Midwest book tour last summer, and an old Vietnam vet I met just called me up last week to buy a book. He bought a print at the event that I did. We talked for a while, so I remembered him. But on the phone, he said he'd been thinking about the book since June and saving up. He doesn't have the internet or any means to pay online, so he had to go to the post office to get a money order to send. It just meant a lot to me. There's no way to predict who it's going to resonate with, but I put my heart and soul into it and tried to have fun with it. Most of my paintings are rooted in some sort of humor. That's the backbone that I use to explore some deeper themes. So I'm not making fun of the Bible. It's just my language and the structure I build up. So anyway, this book is getting out there. It's just taking some time. I never thought it would fit into an academic setting, but a professor of mine from when I went to the U of M took interest in the book, and he put together an event recently at Open Book, where a handful of professors and other scholars talked about my Old Testament in the context of their unique expertises, and it was really fun. That's where I met Jennifer. So yeah, if any of you have any other ideas where this project might fit after this, I'd love to hear it. But I'll wrap up this introduction here before showing you some slideshows in a minute. Just wanted to end with saying that I thought the Old Testament was really inspiring for some reason, just like so many other people did before me. And it was a great experience working with 1111 Press to publish this. They're a small press in Minneapolis. Someone from the team, Mike Correo, did the typesetting, but I still can't really believe why or how they took such a big risk in publishing this. I submitted this project to all the big publishers I could find who print art books of this size first, a couple dozen of them. But no one wanted to take that big of a risk on this confusing project with someone like me who's never published anything before and isn't well known. So there's no real reason for 1111 Press to think this book would sell at all. Everything about this project had the potential to be so polarizing in today's world. I know an artist that had a hugely successful show in New York City, sold everything, $60,000 or $70,000 of work in a single night. The galleries were reaching out to him in hopes to represent him for his next show. He lined up his next exhibition. The gallery was committed, but when he revealed his works in progress, and that these new paintings related to Bible stories, they ghosted him completely. He was untouchable now. So yeah, I don't get how I got so lucky that 1111 would take a chance on. But they did, and now I'm trying to figure out how to fund a second print run as the remaining copies are almost out. One hotel in Wisconsin bought a copy for each of its 30 rooms. No other hotels have seemed interested. So I'm trying to find a big client that will offset the production costs of the next run, because it costs over $20,000 to print 300 copies. We went with a super high quality local printer called Bookmobile. They're one of the best in the country. Also, right now I'm working on a podcast called Birth of a Salesman that comes out in June. It's a semi-fictitious comedy where sales have slowed down to a trickle, so I decided to start selling my book door to door, with the goal to sell 100,000 copies, one of which to the Pope, to sell all the originals to the Vatican for $1 million. Part of it's recorded with a hidden mic and devised, but most of it is scripted. I'm working with about a dozen talented actors in Minneapolis and a producer and a sound designer. In the show, I meet a lot of supportive people who help me out, but there's also a rival Bible salesman that has it out for me. If you're interested in hearing that when it comes out, you can follow me on Instagram or sign up for my newsletter. I'll share that information in a second. But yeah, I was gonna show you a slideshow of how my page changed throughout these 7 years, but that's maybe close to 10 minutes long if I'm also reading the accompanying passages. So how about I just put up on the screen your options for different slideshows I have prepared for about 15 different topics, including the style progression one. You can all choose a few, and then we can do the question and answer part. Does anyone have any questions first of all before I jump into?
I'm just kind of curious what hotel they want to see in Wisconsin.
The Oxbow. It's in Eau Claire. But yeah, I want someone to write a story about staying at the Oxbow with that hotel, so I can hopefully like have it be like in some sort of journal or something and be able to share that with other hotels so they.
I have a perfect connection for that. I can talk to you about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't bring a pen, but don't let me forget. Does anyone have a pen?
Oh. You just got nothing but the finance pen.
Yeah, so there was the pen. Serious?
Like all my pens don't work.
What's your name again? I'm so sorry.
My name?
Yeah.
Oh, Bridget. Yeah. I'll stay after too.
Cool. So yeah, I'm still sharing the screen if nobody has any questions, but yeah, please ask some questions if you want right now, and there'll be time for it later too. Did you say exactly what year you started working? 2014. So. And it came out this last year. Yeah, 2022 in June or May or something. Okay. It's a lot of good themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like humor and epiphanies through the process.
Humor and epiphanies. Okay, so I'll pull up that slide.
I mean, I'm open to what other people do.
Yeah.
But I nominate that one.
Okay.
Oh. My student Jacques knows the sound designer you work with.
What'd you say?
One of our students, Jacques, is here, and they just put in the chat. I know the sound designer you work with and some of the actors. I know other actors too that would have fun with a project like this. Jacques a performer.
Oh,
they're one of the attendees. Yeah, just put it in the chat.
Oh, I'm so bad at
That's okay.
Yeah, I followed you on Instagram. I'm quick on social media. And I was looking at it, and I know some of the actors that you work with, and I know Dan.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah.
Yeah, he's been so fun to work with because he's a total whiz, and we've been friends for a while and have wanted to collaborate. So it's kind of becoming something pretty fun, I think. So, good to meet you, John.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
So I'll press play here and pause it. Okay. Humor and epiphanies. So 15. So this one's from 1 Samuel 9:1. Now there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Begorath, the son of, goes on for a little bit, a mighty man of power. And he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice young man, and a goodly, and there was not among the children of Israel a goodlier person than he. From his shoulders and upward, he was higher than any of the people. So then he appears in the next one too, and they fetched him thence. And when he stood among the people, he was higher than any of the people from his shoulders upwards. So I made this one and then this one from behind for the next painting. So there's like a little secret reveal that there's like this dog behind them and like their backs are crazy. But this was kind of earlier. It was like a lot cruder in the earlier books, and then I kind of honed the process. Then this one kind of shows how like the fluid process that my approach has, where the painting's not done until it's over. Like I sketch it out on the paper itself. I don't do any sketches ahead of time, but I use latex paint, so it's really forgiving and you can paint over anything. But this one is Haggai 2:10. In the 24th day of the 9th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, ask now the priest concerning the law, saying, if one bear holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with his skirt do touch bread, or pottage, or wine, or oil, or any meat, shall it be holy? And the priests answered and said, No. Then said Haggai, if one that is unclean by a dead body touch any of these, shall it be unclean? And the priest answered and said, shall be unclean. So in this one, I had the fisherman had his pole initially bending this way, just like in the water. And then I realized that it's like the last thing I did on the painting is I changed the direction of the pole and had it go into the fish that he was carrying in. Because like if he's in here and he's coming in, he's like helping him. Just as long as he's out there, he's helping him get the fish in there. So that was just kind of like something. And then this one is for Jonah 1:3. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down to Joppa, and found a ship going to Tarshish. He paid the fare thereof, and went down into it to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was likely to be broken. The mariners were afraid, and cried every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea to lighten them. So in here I'm like, what would be fun for them to be discharging from the raft, and what would be a nice raft, and just modernized it, made it a pontoon boat, and just the objects that they're throwing out are like lightweight objects. Just and then this one's from Ezekiel 20:15. Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness, that I should not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands, because they despised my judgments, and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Sabbaths, but their heart went after their idols. So in this one I have like the milk and honey, the idol's right here in his hand. And then this is God, and to exemplify the milk and honey, a scuba tank is a milk jug, and the beehives like going into a snorkel. So the next we got I will lay thy cities to waste. This is Ezekiel 35:4. And thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. So I tried twice to find the right placement for the burger. And I wanted it to be like here, but I had already sketched these two out, so I just put two identical burgers. It was just kind of like a last minute epiphany to include them both anyway, because I was gonna, it's kind of hard to explain, and I'm not sure if you guys can hear me and stuff.
I like that even the burgers are broken.
Yeah.
Like the idea of a broken burger.
Fragile. But yeah, like what is this one? This one it's for Ezekiel 32:8. All the bright lights of heaven I will make dark over thee, and set darkness upon thy land, saith the Lord God. So this one's just all dark, because it's at a point where I was really exhausted. And this was like a freebie, where since he took all the lights out of heaven and made it dark, that is the opportunity to have one that's just black paint. And then this one is also from Ezekiel. For thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast clapped thine hands and stamped with the feet, and rejoiced in heart with all thy despite against the land of Israel. Behold, therefore, I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, deliver thee for a spoil to the heathen, and I will cut thee off from the people, and I will cause thee to perish out of the countries. I will destroy thee, thou shalt know that I'm God. So it was because they were partying, and I couldn't figure out what party food they should have. And they're like gathering around the bed of this pickup truck, and then like the only option was the party side, the ultimate party food. And so that was that one. This one's kind of got a Looney Tunes situation going on. Ecclesiastes 7:25. I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things, and to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. So it's another burger situation, but the possum's about to trip the line with the seductive woman, and he's about to go flying, presumably. So this is from Psalms 41. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear, shall trust in the Lord. So this one just took so long to paint all of those, and I'll never do all that painting again. Two more in this one. Psalms 24:7. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors. The King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, even lift them up, ye everlasting doors. The King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory, Selah. So this one is the power chord is actually his shoelaces. The power is coming from him. So then this one is Nahum 1:2. God is jealous and the Lord revengeth. The Lord revengeth and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries. He reserveth wrath for his enemies. So this guy is mad because presumably here is him and his wife, but he's got lipstick on his collar, and to get his revenge, he's set a whoopee cushion on his chair right before their meeting. So yeah, that's one. That's the humor and epiphanies. Maybe one more. Anyone wants to select one from here?
On idols and strange gods.
Sure. I really like to paint like to depict idols here. If I was still going. Second. Hopefully. Idol strange gods. Then Jacob said unto his household and to all that were with him, put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean and change your garments. So kind of the idols is like trophies and fishing trophies sometimes, but there's lots of talk about idols and that conversation at Open Book that I was talking about. I feel like there's a ton of really awesome insights about idolatry and what it means to like that the text is so visually stimulating, and it like is asking for it to be represented pictorially, but but for it to also be warning against it the whole time, and then people's like push and pull of wanting to illustrate it, but then being reprimanded, and then religion splitting off of which ones say it's okay to actually depict biblical passages, which ones say it's not. But I'm not going to do a good job of summarizing what they said, but this is really interesting. This is from Deuteronomy. Cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and putteth it in a secret place. And all the people shall answer and say, Amen. So this is the idol of this one. It's like before this project, I like to just draw creatures and kind of invent things. So it was fun to kind of have the opportunity for all these idols that aren't too descriptive of what they are, so you can kind of choose yourself what they're going to look like.
13.
1 Kings,
Yeah.
First book of Kings. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it's too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And he set the one in Bethel, the other he put in Dan. First book of Kings. And he took away the Sodomites out of the land, and removed all the idols that his fathers had made, and also Maacah his mother. Even her he removed from being queen, because she had made an idol in a grove. And Asa destroyed her idol and burnt it by the brook Kidron. Jeremiah 50:38. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert, with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there. The owl shall dwell there, and it shall be no more inhabited forever. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Use this one again, idols. I need to go over this. And then here's from Habakkuk. What profiteth the graven image that the maker thereof hath graven, the molten image, and the teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusteth therein to make dumb idols? Woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver. There is no breath in it at all in the midst of it. So that's just a few examples from there. Yeah, anyone wants to pick one more, or just start talking and
I'm really interested in the eggs.
Sure.
That's the one I was going to say too.
Do it.
I like the eggs.
Say it. 9. So this one kind of started it all. There's a passage from Job where God kind of talks trash about the whites of the eggs. He says, but Job answered and said, oh, that my grief were thoroughly weighed and my calamity laid in the balances together. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are swallowed up. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me. The poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. Doth the wild ass bray when he hath grass? Or loweth the ox over his fodder? Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? Things that my soul refuses to touch are as my sorrowful meat. But I really enjoy the whites of the eggs. And so this one is an aggressive skater, separating them by grinding on them. And then it kind of just became more of a
There's not a theological point I've ever considered.
it just became kind of there's lots of talk about food, and they're just kind of a strange food, and just to have feast scenes be kind of populated by eggs. It's just something I kind of did from throughout it. So this one's from Nehemiah, also day by day, from the first day into the last day. He read in the book of the law of God, and they kept the feast 7 days. And on the 8th day, it was a solemn assembly according unto the manner. And this one is from Psalms 81:2. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day. And he's piercing the egg with his music. The trumpet. Jeremiah, for thus saith the Lord, like, as I have brought all of this great evil upon this people, so I will bring upon them all the good that I have promised them. So God creates a problem, big problem, but he also solved it. So that's kind of my interpretation of that one. This one is also Jeremiah. When Micaiah, the son of Gemariah, the son of Shaphan, sorry, I'm so bad, had heard out of the book all the words of the Lord, then he went down into the king's house, into the scribe's chamber, and lo, all the princes sat there, even Elishama the scribe, and Delaiah the son of Shemaiah, and Elnathan the son of Akbor, and Gemariah the son of Shaphan, and Zedekiah the son of Hananiah, and all the princes. Then Micaiah declared unto all them the words that he had heard. When Baruch read the book in the ears of the people. So I made this one kind of a office scene. And this is from Jeremiah. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, as mine anger and mine fury have been poured forth upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so shall my fury be poured upon you, when ye shall enter into Egypt, and ye shall be an execration and an astonishment and a curse and a reproach, and ye shall see this place no more. And then this is the last one in this little series, from Ezekiel. I've always wanted to kind of like paint the like a scene where the guy's looking in the window at a feast, just like a kind of Charles Dickens type of thing. So this has been like in my mind for years before this passage seemed like it would work with it. So it's, thus saith the Lord God, when I shall have gathered the house of Israel from the people among whom they are scattered, shall be sanctified in them in the sight of the heathen, then shall they dwell in their land that I have given to my servant Jacob. They shall dwell safely therein, and shall build houses and plant vineyards. They shall dwell with confidence. And I have executed judgments upon all those that despise them round about them. They shall know that I am the Lord their God. So it's just like one group of people being kept on the outside from like an intergenerational punishment kind of situation. Just I've thought about that a lot during the Old Testament, during illustrating it is like the long-term punishments that, and like the inability of the God presented to like understand the complexities of trauma through like in the next generation, and how like if you're messed up, if your parents are punished, then like for the cycle to continue because you like starting off in a bad place is like kind of the central part of the Old Testament is like what I picked up on. It's just like that the absence of understanding from the God presented what punishment does down the line. It's just like I know that's a shallow interpretation and people can get a lot more out of it, and it's like a living text, and you can meditate on any passage and find somewhere to grow personally or to connect with people. But so that was just kind of a loud part of the book, whereas kind of jarring to here now with what we know, like modern of just brains and like the that does to people having your family killed over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah. So does anyone want to pick another one or just keep talking? You guys, I hope you have questions and stuff now, maybe.
Yeah, that takes some conversations. Stop share.
Oh, stop share. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Chuck, go ahead.
Thanks, Sam. This is really cool. I love these visuals. I kind of see it as like being serious about not being serious. So okay. I really like the sort of like absurdism mixed with some of like the like really stark literalism that some of these images have. And I think that there's a dynamism to it that like is really captivating in how you illustrate it. It reminds me, I am like the millennial age that I am. I grew up on like cartoons that were like kind of had this kind of like ugly, dirty, dark kind of like feeling to how they were animated and how they were drawn.
Which ones? Because I'm a millennial too.
Like, you know, Ren and Stimpy, Rocco's Modern Life, Cat Dog. Yeah, and I like, you know, really drawn to, and always have been, that just kind of like, ooh, like a visual of the world that is just kind of, yeah, gritty. And I kind of get some of that just in sort of in how you depict your images. And I'm just curious. Oh, and like one of the images in the desert with the worms kind of popping out kind of reminded me of Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice moment where they step out of the house and they're in that like desert. And so that just made me ask, like, what are your artistic inspirations, or who have you looked up to visually in terms of like who has given you your own visual voice and artistic eye?
Yeah, I feel like what kind of drove part of the atmospheric choices that I made, where like that I don't like to depict violence, but there's so much of it in the Old Testament, so it's like an attempt to kind of work around having to actually portray just like scenes of killing your children or like eating the family or like to like skirt around that stuff because I don't want to portray it, but to still kind of have that kind of dark energy that is surrounding it. So I don't know if that answered that part of the question, but it's just also coming into it, this was kind of my style. So I didn't like change what I was doing to do this so much, but just kind of like let it breathe and let it grow and kind of take its own course. And then like inspiration, I'm not exactly sure because I obviously live in this age and am bombarded with so much media and have seen so many artists and all of this stuff. I don't feel like I gravitate towards any in particular or look at their work for inspiration, but more so like kind of the world around me and my experiences. And then a lot of the source material for this was from kind of like catalogs or old encyclopedias or like pamphlets for like promotional travel pamphlets for like small towns in Wisconsin or something. And just kind of like
that comes through.
Just like just kind of like a little cultural, just things that seem like they carry more gravitas than might seem like on the surface, but they just are kind of dense with the symbolism that I sense, even though I don't know how to Thanks, Damien Wheeler. So, but yeah, so I don't know how to answer that, the inspiration question.
Did you grow up in Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
Eau Claire.
Oh, you did grow up in Wisconsin. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Did you have one?
It was more an observation, and that was, you said you like to invent images and things. And it struck me that the Old Testament was a perfect resource for you, because it is filled with all sorts of descriptions of events, as you said. And how to choose must have been a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was so full of rich imagery. Is that the end of your question if I start talking?
We can go right ahead and start talking.
Yeah, so the Bible that I worked from, I figured out that I just calculated every about 3 pages of its text would fit in this book on 1 page of my text, since it's 12 by 9. So there was that first limiting factor where I could really only pick an illustration or a passage to illustrate every 3 pages or so. So then from there, I just would read through the book, highlight them all, and then which ones spoke to me the most. I would try to include those and then space the other ones accordingly from there. And yeah, just the ones in the moment that seemed like they would be the most fun to illustrate.
And the way the format of the printed version is that there's a text in bold.
Yeah.
That kind of like implies that's the moment or a key thing that's being illustrated. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So this kind of helps do it for you guys first. Wait, everyone's over here. So, for example, this is the bolded passage. It doesn't show up too well in this, but I could do it.
You hold it up. Do you want help?
Sure.
It's kind of an awkward thing to do, but if you hold, you take one side.
Okay.
I'll take the other. And you can just kind of zoom in.
Oh, that is my screen. Sorry, everyone.
Here.
I thought I was coming from like the ethers, but I forgot that I got my computer.
There. So there's the bolded, slightly larger font.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the whole way through. So funny. I thought the camera was like up there.
Oh yeah.
There it is one.
There are. Yeah, in that corner. Yeah.
So yeah, nice same here.
So it literally is an image per page of text.
Yeah. So yeah.
I admire your chutzpah. I don't know how to, as we sit here in an institution where people spend decades poring over the Old Testament, dissecting it, deciding this and that, and you came at it, and granted it was a 7-year process, but it's something less than a decade, and you ended up illustrating it. I just admire you for taking that on. That's, I need a nap.
Yeah, it didn't take many naps, but I slept a lot there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have a question, but I guess just reflecting on like, I just really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm thinking about like, well, I also grew up Catholic and sort of like diverted from the Christian faith for a long time, like 18 years, and now I'm like in seminary, and I feel like here I found my like Catholic lineage, like sort of like reconnecting with that. And so I just love that there's a resource to sort of be like, for people like me, and I don't know, just like weird art or absurd art, or like, you know, just this different type of art being represented in like sacred space, that there, I don't know, it's just, I think it's a good reminder that that is allowed there, or like it's part of like this type of self-expression like is sacred art, and like it's I want it to be included you know, in like my imagining of what I want Catholicism to be, you know, like the reimagining that I'm hoping to do. So anyway,
Thanks.
I really appreciate what you're doing. And oh yeah, there was like some potential, the potential to be polarizing, you know, I think is also like a potential to be unifying. I mean, I just feel like there's so much discussion that can be done around the work, you know, like because of this sort of like controversial sort of whatever it is, like it's not quite, you know, it's not quite so palatable to the seculars because it feels too religious, but it's not too, you know, I just feel like, oh, that's exactly where we want to be. It's kind of in that in between. Is like I feel like that's where the rich discussion happens, when we are like sort of poking the nerve that's kind of in the center of those. So yeah, I just think there's a lot of potential for like cool discussion around it. So
somebody ordered a book after seeing it at the hotel. They left a comment that said, "Thank you for doing this. It's the first time my wife's ever read a Bible before." Obviously religious. He was religious and his wife wasn't, and this was kind of a bridge. So.
Yeah, I think we talked a bit at the event, like, you know, the New Testament isn't as fun to illustrate probably as the Old Testament.
Yeah, I looked
the book of Revelation, I think you would have a lot of fun with, because it's likewise like kind of bizarro images.
Yeah,
images.
Because I thought maybe I would try the New Testament, but I can't really draw the same character more than once. That's why this was a nice project, because there were so many characters. But like I thought maybe I could do it without Jesus being a central figure or something if I was to attempt the New Testament. But I looked through it and he's like in every
these different people, all the underrepresented people.
That's
who
true.
Are Jesus, who are the image of.
So his character could change.
Yeah, I think.
Or it would be kind of great to illustrate the New Testament and just never include an image of Jesus.
Oh my God.
And just picked everyone else.
That was my thought, but he's too prominent. Like I looked through it and it would not. I wouldn't be able to have the same.
Maybe he could just be a small figure in the background, like you only ever see his back, or you see, you know.
Yeah.
Jack, you have your hand up.
Yeah, that thing in chat I put about art and theology was just a joke. Just since you said that about the book of Revelations and sort of like the apocalyptic literature and the images that are there, Jennifer, I'm just curious, Sam, like because today in class, Dr. Senna's Hebrew Bible course this morning, we were talking about apocalyptic literature in the Old Testament. Specifically, we're looking at the book of Daniel. And I, as somebody who's kind of recently really diving into the Hebrew Bible, I didn't know that there was like that same kind of apocalyptic imagery, symbolic imagery, kind of like there is in the book of Revelations. So I'm either asking, did you like have a specific drawing that you made for the book of Daniel, or and like when you don't have literature or language that is like super descriptive or like not referential but more expressive, like then how do you discover what the image should be if it kind of has to be like pulled out of thin air?
Well, like I'll sit with the passage and look through my source material if nothing's coming to me, and then I'll just start making connections. So it seems like it's pulled out of thin air, but there's like connections on some level in my mind. But then if you want to see the Daniel ones too, I'll share my screen. And then there's this one. It was a pretty apocalyptic looking book. This one's about the God bringing Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. This one is you guys can.
That one, yeah.
And this one, Daniel morning, 3 weeks with no bread, no flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all. So it's get no lotion, bread, wine, lotion, bread, wine, presumably for 3 weeks or whatever. Yeah, stop share. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question very well, but yeah, I've got like
And it was cool to look at. Thank you.
oh, of course. I've got like a book of clippings of source material that I'll just glue in there, cut and glue, and it's a thick book with lots of inspiring imagery in it that I'll look through to start piecing together things.
One thing, kind of going back to Bridget's observation, or like kind of about the constructive tension or in between place. At the book event at Open Book, it was interesting to me that a lot of the panels, like people kept talking about it as being blasphemous, or there was this like references to it being blasphemous. And I don't find it to be blasphemous, I guess. And I think that maybe that you know, I think there's so much going on. We had so much to talk about in that conversation that I didn't really feel like pointing it out then, but I would have been curious to talk more about that, because from my perspective, it seems like that kind of label maybe had more to do with the folks' perception of what religious art is or what's permissible. To kind of to Bridget's point, like I think that because I don't think that you're ever, like you said kind of at the beginning, like you're not making fun of the Bible, and I don't read it as being like your images as being like disrespectful. Like it's they're actually very like you take the text seriously on its own terms and are kind of being inspired by it and being playful with it, which isn't bad to do. So yeah, I don't know. I was curious just about that kind of like that using that category or terminology for this work. What you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's like blasphemous. I didn't do it with a blasphemy in mind, but like I don't know, there's like some subtle kind of token and just because like I feel like modern people with open minds will come at this and not think of it as blasphemous, but I did like include a lot of kind of like just because a big section of or quadrant of like people who read and live by the words of the Old Testament are like homophobic, like a portion of them. So like that's just one example where I'd kind of play with like a lot of the characters would be in potentially kind of like a homosexual seeming relationship, and it's not making fun. It's more of just like it's not at all a judgment on anybody, but just like under the context of a historically oppressively interpreted book.
Yeah.
So it's not making fun of anything in particular, but it's just kind of like bringing some more modern acceptances and stuff into a text that is classically has been used for oppression. So it's not like
so I think you're bringing like you could read those images as bringing like a critique, you know, I think more than like it being blasphemous, because there are a lot of places like United where you know the scriptures being interpreted in a more liberative way that rejects those, you know, kinds of oppressive teachings. But so I suppose
So someone could see it. as
Someone might
blasphemous,
see it as
but it's
blasphemous
not
from
intended
that perspective,
to
but
be.
yeah, you're right.
More as like the opposite.
And then
Yeah.
the risk of stating the obvious, I'm thinking, yeah, a historian of religious art could probably cite some eras where art was ripped off of the walls of various institutions because it was felt to be blasphemous.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But also, and I in my response to Sam's book at that event, I showed some also humorous marginal images that, you know, are in medieval manuscripts too. So it's like, depending on the period, it's like, you know, there might be iconoclasm, but there's definitely a lot of humor in medieval, the margins of medieval European manuscripts, you know, that are of religious texts. So there's that, you know,
Yeah.
the sacred and the profane are always kind of rubbing up next to each other. It's just whether people want to kind of acknowledge that or talk about it.
Yeah.
Can I say more about that?
You can, yeah.
Well, I feel like one of my core religious abuses was the absence of humor and comedy in church spaces, or like, it's not allowed, you're not allowed to joke or make fun of anything here, you know, like, we have to be reverent, but I really think that that doesn't make sense to me, or like that there is a reverence in comedy, you know, or there's still sacredness within the comedic's voice, and it is so often labeled as this like opposition to what we're revering as sacred or divine. And yeah, anyway, that is definitely like a big social construct that I was raised in. And anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl in the pews. So we'd be less likely to joke around or anything in church, and that kind of atmosphere of like no humor in church. So I'm just,
Yeah, and there's no outlet for it. So then when you do joke around or want there to be something funny, then you're like punished for trying to bring anything in. But it's like, well, you didn't give us any channels for it. So, so now every time we try to bring it in, it's punished, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Referential humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
I can share a couple of places to learn more about it if anyone's interested.
Well, yeah, that would be great.
Then take more questions too, but I'll do a screen share again, which is cool. So this is on my publisher's website, 1111press.com/Old Testament. And then there's a bunch of just various press, Star Tribune and just various stuff, and like a short documentary. Thanks for sharing that, Jennifer. And then a place to order the book as well, if anyone is interested.
And you have prints for order?
Prints, I have prints available, but they're not listed anywhere. So I can, like, if someone's interested in getting a print, just reach out to me. I'll try to show you what's available. And then I also, okay, so this is, I got an Instagram, so you can find out more about the podcast coming up, just Sam Robertson Art. And then I bought the domain americasbible.com, and this is going to be a work in progress, or it's going to change websites, but I was pretty excited that I got that domain that was available. So
americasbible.com.
Yep, no apostrophe. This is the quote from we got my wife to read it for the first time. So that's that, and then yeah, that's pretty much. I have a newsletter if anyone's interested in subscribing to it. You can do that on americasbible.com. Sign up there. And then yeah, just stay connected and reach out if you have anything. Also, to do the podcast, I'm raising money because I'm paying all the actors. So I made these pillowcases. Let's see, take off screen share. Stop sharing. So Birth of a Salesman.
That's
So, it's me with a briefcase before it's upholstered, but it says yes, pillowcases. Don't forget when you set your clocks back to also set www.americasbible.com as your homepage on your computer. So maybe among the first to hear any great news about the Bible pills. I thought it was really funny, and then my parents bought one, and it's on the guest bed at my house, and I was so uncomfortable. I was like, everywhere else except for at my parents' house is this okay. So if anybody wants one of these, they're $50, and you're helping fund talented actors to do this. So just reach out if you have anything. Sorry to pitch so much.
That's awesome. You're a salesman.
Oh, yeah,
that's what you
I was yeah.
Awesome.
I'll put americasbible.com.
Amazing. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, we're at time where we can hang out a little bit more, but let's everybody thank Sam for coming and sharing his work with us.
Thank you. It's really special. Love the opportunity. Any other questions or comments? Concerns?